Jim, very simply, how determined are you and the boys to make sure there's no Celtic title party at Tannadice?
Well, absolutely, very determined. To put on a good performance and try and get another positive result. We're coming into the game off the back of 3 really good important victories, 3 clean sheets, and I think that defensive structure and that solidity that we've had in the previous 3 games is really going to be called into question on Saturday against real quality opposition. And Celtic have shown in the last couple of fixtures, after the disappointment of the performance against St Johnstone at McDiarmid Park, they've really bounced back. Brendan Rodgers has made a few changes to the starting 11, and those players have certainly grabbed their opportunity. And you saw that with the high scoring victories against St Johnstone and Kilmarnock the last couple of games.
I guess it's inevitable, given what's at stake for Celtic going into this game, that a lot of the focus will be on them. Maybe you're going into it a wee bit under the radar, as you can maybe make a case Dundee United have done all season, and it's served you pretty well.
Yeah, I think it's only natural that in the build up to this game, given what's at stake for Celtic, being able to wrap up the league title, you would imagine all of the press attention and the media attention will be on them, but it's our job as the opposition to try and make life as difficult as possible, and if that means trying to delay those celebrations for the Celtic fans by another week, then we would be absolutely delighted with that. Our last game against Celtic at Tannadice was a really good positive performance from us, where we were able to take a really valuable point. So we have to maintain the high standards that we've shown recently. We've, as I said, been on a very good run of our own, and we want to try and keep that going.
And of course, with Aberdeen playing Hibs up at Pittodrie, I guess you've got to look at this game as a great opportunity for yourselves.
Yeah, look, something's going to give in Pittodrie. There's going to be points dropped by one of the 2 teams, and we've got to try and capitalise on it. We understand that we're going to be huge underdogs going into the game on Saturday, but teams have proven already, like St Johnstone only a few weeks ago, that if you get your tactics right on the day, if you defend properly and you take those 1 or 2 opportunities that you get, then you can cause an upset, and that's what we're aiming to do.
Just looking at the bigger picture of Scottish football, and whether it's this weekend or next week or whenever Celtic will win the title again, is there anyone that can stop them? Is there any way anyone can stop them? Is it something that you see, is it a trend that you see changing anytime soon?
Listen, I think the league as a whole has been really exciting, and I think it's been really competitive from second place down to the bottom of the table. There's still so much at stake for everyone. Even the fight there for the top 6 battle, 3 or 4 teams going for it right down to the last day prior to the split. You can see what's happening at the bottom of the league. Of course, we want it to be more competitive at the top end as well, but that's a difficult one to balance for clubs like ourselves, given the financial resources that the likes of Celtic and Rangers have got. It does unfortunately come down to that a lot of the time. So unless they can change the prize money a little bit, and teams like ourselves and Hibs and Hearts and Aberdeen can start qualifying for Europe on a regular basis and bring in more money, then that's the only time we're going to be able to really, I suppose, go and compete. But it would certainly make it a far more exciting league if it was more competitive at the top end. I think if you take Celtic and Rangers out of the Premiership right now, and you look at what kind of a league you've got on there, it's really, really tight from 3rd place, right down to 6th or 7th at the moment. So that would be a hell of a title challenge. But look, it's not where our focus is right now. Short term, medium term, and long term. Our focus is on trying to make sure that we become a regular top 6 team, then a regular European team, and then we'll see what happens after that.
I've spoken a few times this season about ticking off the targets, survival, top 6, now Europe. Given that certainly from the eyes of out with Tannadice, people will say that you've overachieved this season perhaps. Is the pressure almost off you going into this last 5 games? Because anything you get now is a bonus.
No, I don't accept that, to be honest, and I've been trying to make sure that the players don't have that kind of mindset going into the last 5 games either. Of course there was a sigh of relief when the top 6 was secured, but at no stage have we took our foot off the pedal and relaxed in training, and the guys aren't getting any extra days off. There's still 5 huge games for us to play for a lot of points, and the 5 teams that we're going to face in these last few weeks are all teams that we've had relative success against in the past. We've taken points off every one of them over the course of the campaign, and we have to believe that we're capable of doing that in the next 5 fixtures. So there's still a hell of a lot to play for. We're not just satisfied with the position that we're in right now. 5th place is not guaranteed. St Mirren have had a great kind of few weeks to get themselves into the top 6, and they'll believe that they can catch us, and we have to believe that we're capable of catching Aberdeen and Hibs above us. So still all to play for as far as we're concerned, and we certainly won't be taking our foot off the pedal anytime soon. Just
in terms of your players, obviously there's been a few bits and pieces in the papers over the last few days about Decky moving on in the summer and Louis Mole moving on in the summer. Just your thoughts on that, and is there any further update in terms of any other players whose deals are up in the summer, whether they will be leaving, or in terms of you being able to keep the ones you want to keep?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's the not so enjoyable part of being the manager when you've got to make those difficult decisions on players' futures. But I can't speak any higher of the likes of Louis Moulton and Declan Gallagher in terms of what they've done for Dundee United over the last couple of seasons. Hugely influential figures last season in helping us get promoted back into the Premiership, and both players have played a considerable part in putting us in the position that we're in right now. Those decisions are not taken lightly. There's a lot weighed up. There's always an argument about when do you break the news to the players. Some people think you should wait till the end of the season, but personally, I don't think that's fair to those players. They've got wives and kids and mortgages just like the rest of us, and I think you've got to be fair to the lads and give them enough time to try and sort out their futures at other clubs. So they're on board with what we have to do over the next 5 weeks. They've been extremely professional since we've had those conversations, and they both want to play a part in the next 5 fixtures, and they want to leave Dundee United with their head held high, and I know they'll leave with the greatest of respect from the Dundee United supporters and all the staff here as well.
And is there any other update in terms of any of the other players who are out of contract in the summer?
We're having conversations with a few of the other ones, but I've got nothing to give you at this moment in time.
Just if I can name one, Jack Walton has been standout for you. He's another player that falls into that category. I mean, I would imagine that, given his importance to the group, he'd be somebody that you would be keen to try and get back here for next season. Yeah, I mean, look, Jack's a terrific goalkeeper. Again, had a brilliant season. We've had 12 clean sheets, this season in the Premiership, and Jack has played a huge part in that. Obviously the guys in front of him have contributed, but Jack's made some big saves at key moments. But that's not one that we're in control of, unfortunately, because Luton Town have got the option on Jack for next season. But he knows my thoughts on him. I think he's still got room for improvement. I still think there's a lot of development still to be done. He's at a great age for a goalkeeper, working closely with Paul Mathers and Dave Richards and the guys in that department, and he's been a really influential figure for us. And of course, you want to hold on to your better players, and Jack is certainly one of those, but it's not one that we have got control of at this moment in time. Just a final one for me, just your team news generally, bumps and bruises. Yeah, I mean the usual at this time of season. The lads are one or two carrying knocks and niggles, and trying to get them through the next 5 weeks, trying to modify one or two training sessions for a few just to make sure that they're available for the big games. But we're relatively strong going into the game of the weekend. Ross Graham unfortunately will miss out, but other than that we should have a clear bill of health.
Jim, you've spoken about how the club is always looking to strengthen, not just when the transfer window's open, but throughout the season. How much is your finished league position going to affect those plans in terms of transfer budgets and so on?
I mean, look, I can't imagine I'm too different to any other manager out there. You try and plan and prepare well in advance of the transfer windows opening. And there's a lot of players out of contract, and as of January, obviously we've been allowed to speak to those players. So there's conversations ongoing with numerous players and agents at the moment. And yeah, that's my job as the manager, is to try and continue to drive the club forward, not to stand still, to try and continue to improve and make progress. And it's something that we've been working tirelessly on. Obviously, we have the change in the recruitment department with our head of recruitment, Michael Kearney, leaving to go back to England. But we're well down the line in terms of finding a replacement for him. And but that hasn't changed. My job on a daily basis is to look at players, see who's becoming available, and identify good targets.
On the game on Saturday, obviously we spoke about the importance of it to Celtic, but when things are so tight round about you, how important do you think it can be in sort of setting the tone for your players and also for the teams round about you for the rest of the post-split fixtures?
Yeah, I mean, look, as I said to a previous question, I know the emphasis and a lot of the focus is on Celtic. But we've still got a hell of a lot to play for ourselves, and that's been the message to the players and to the staff, that we don't drop our standards over the next 5 weeks. Players are playing for a number of different things, whether that's contracts here or contracts elsewhere. There's going to be international squads announced in the summer. We've got a number of our players who want to be knocking on the door of all of those international teams, and of course, there's lots of points and places in the table for us as a group, and we've got a huge amount of fans that come to Tannadice to watch us and travel on the road with us, who pay a lot of money to come and see their team. So we owe them to keep going, to keep fighting, and to put on a performance.
Do you have a points target for the next 5 games?
No, over the course of the campaign, we did have a points target every 11 games for the players, which was 15. We felt that 45 points would be enough to get top 6, and we actually ended up on 50. But our points return over each 11 games has been relatively consistent. But in the next 5 games, anything can happen. I think that's the beauty of the split. You see teams going on fantastic runs, with 4 or 5 games to go, and it can really make an impact on the league table. We have to believe that we're capable of beating all 5 teams in the top half of the table. As I said, we've taken points off every single one of them throughout the course of the campaign, and we're going to try and do the same in the last 5.
No easy games coming up with these next 5. You could probably point out that the hardest one is the first one against Celtic. Do you think that could benefit Dundee United getting that done and out the road first?
Well, it's hard to tell right now. I mean, I suppose time will tell. If you could have asked me, would I have wanted this fixture if I could have picked it? No, probably not. You'd probably rather play them in the second last game, I suppose, where the league is done and it's wrapped up, and they don't have the excitement of winning the league at our stadium. So I mean, look, there's a lot of incentives there for us. We want to ensure that doesn't happen. We want to delay those title celebrations for another week if possible, and that's what we'll try and do.
This is obviously the business end of the season for the players. Does the position at Dundee United, where they have Europe as an option, does that help focus the players at this point, and does the general week help with that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, there's a number of our players within the squad and a number of members of the staff, myself included, that have never experienced European football at club level. So there's that is an added incentive for the group. We don't think for one moment that we've guaranteed that yet. There is a healthy points difference between ourselves and St Mirren at the moment, but with the form that St Mirren are in, and some of their results and performances against the teams in the top half, I know Stephen Robinson and his players certainly won't give up the fight. So if we could finish in 5th, I think that would be a fantastic achievement, but we're not satisfied with that. We want to try and get 3rd, and we're still very much in the fight for that.